This morning, an American fast food icon fielding a deadly crisis.
Have you ever wondered what is really inside the burgers you have trusted for years? Back when diners felt honest and ingredients were simple, no one thought twice about ordering the house special with fries. But somewhere along the way, did the meat start tasting just a little less like what it used to be? Today at the Hidden Menu, we take a deep dive into which burgers might not be what they seem. So let us start with one: McDonald's. There was a time when walking into a McDonald's meant something more than convenience. It was a reward after soccer practice, a treat on payday, or a pit stop on a road trip where the Golden Arches meant comfort. But times have changed, and so have the burgers. What once felt like an honest fast food indulgence now raises quiet questions about what we are actually eating. McDonald's has faced years of scrutiny over their beef, and although they claim to use 100% pure beef, that phrase does not always mean what people think it does. In fact, former employees and suppliers have hinted that while the meat might technically come from cows, the processing methods, preservation agents, and bulk production practices can stretch the truth of what a real hamburger should be. Take a closer look at the ingredient list, not on the menu board but the fine print, and you will find a cocktail of additives that help keep the patties uniform, preserved, and cheap. One former manager explained that the patties come frozen and pre-cooked in large boxes, sometimes sticking together with an oily residue that has nothing to do with a grill. This processing method allows for longer shelf life and easier handling, but it also removes much of the natural flavor and texture you would expect from beef. That flavor has to be added back in using salt, natural flavors, and other enhancers. The result? A product that might legally be called beef, but lacks the simplicity and honesty people associate with a burger. Seniors who remember a time when a hamburger was ground chuck from a local butcher might bite into one today and feel something is just off. The experience has changed, and so has the trust. You are not just paying for a meal, you are buying into a system where marketing often does more work than the meat itself. Over the years, lawsuits and consumer investigations have questioned the nutritional value and preparation methods of these burgers. And while McDonald's has made changes to its supply chain, the core issue remains. Fast food is about cost efficiency, not culinary integrity. That means the burger you unwrap in your car might be more about margins than meat. 2. Burger King. There is something about the smell of a Burger King Whopper that feels almost nostalgic, like summer cookouts or a meal you were allowed to choose all by yourself as a kid. That flame-grilled aroma is a key part of the brand's image, a way of saying this is not just fast food, it is real grilled beef. But what many folks do not realize is that the grill marks and smoky flavor are often more show than substance. Industry insiders have shared that while the patties are indeed cooked over flames, the process is highly automated and the meat itself is highly processed before it ever hits the grill. Burger King has long advertised its use of real beef, but under the surface there are layers of additives and processing that reshape what real means. Former employees and supply chain analysts have noted that the patties can contain fillers, ingredients like textured vegetable protein or modified starches that help maintain uniformity, moisture, and bulk. This is especially true in international markets, but even in the US, the pressure to keep costs down and volume high leads to compromises that do not show up on the menu board. The smoke flavor? Often it is added after cooking using liquid smoke or grill-flavored additives. The grill marks? Sometimes those are seared in during mass production, not by a line cook with a spatula. One former line worker admitted that the patties arrived frozen with a smell that was more factory than flame. They were run through automated broilers with no real human cooking involved beyond loading trays and flipping switches. Customers might not care until they start asking what exactly they are putting in their bodies. For older adults watching their sodium or chemical intake, those subtle shifts in preparation can carry health consequences over time. A Whopper may still feel like a comfort food, but the comfort may be more psychological than nutritional. It is not about blaming one company. It is about understanding how far we have drifted from the kind of food we thought we were eating. That quiet drift is the real story here. and it is one many people are only just starting to notice. 3. Wendy's. Wendy's has built much of its brand on one powerful promise: fresh, never frozen beef. It sounds reassuring in a fast food landscape full of frozen patties and reheated meals. And to be fair, compared to many of its competitors, Wendy's does offer something closer to what people imagine when they think of a good, old-fashioned hamburger. But even here, behind the promise of freshness, there are compromises few customers ever see. The beef may arrive at stores chilled rather than frozen, but that does not mean it is untouched or unaltered. Supply chain experts have pointed out that fresh in the fast food industry often refers to logistical freshness, not necessarily quality or purity. The meat still goes through grinding, packaging, and preservation processes that allow it to be transported safely across hundreds of miles. This often involves vacuum sealing and chemical preservatives designed to keep the product looking pink and tasting consistent. One supplier explained that in many cases the beef used in these patties is lean trimmings from multiple sources, blended to ensure uniformity. That means the ground beef may come from different cows, different parts of the country, or even different slaughterhouses, all mixed into one square patty. And while Wendy's has earned praise for resisting frozen meat, critics have raised concerns about sodium levels and additives in the seasonings used to bring out the burger's flavor. Some locations have also been caught pre-cooking patties during rush hours, then holding them under heat lamps, undercutting the very freshness the brand is known for. It is easy to believe that fresh means better, cleaner, or safer. But in the world of fast food, even the words fresh has its limits. For seniors trying to eat a little healthier or more mindfully, that distinction matters. You might be avoiding the freezer, but that does not mean you are avoiding the factory. And in today's food system, those two are sometimes closer than we think. 4. Jack in the Box. There was a time when Jack in the Box felt like the oddball cousin in the fast food family. A little quirkier, a little more offbeat. The commercials were funny, the menu was a mashup of tacos, burgers, and egg rolls, and the drive-thru always seemed like an adventure. But the real surprise may be what is actually inside one of their most common orders, the classic beef burger. You think you are getting a patty made from real ground beef, just like you might toss on your grill at home. But the deeper you look, the more blurred the picture becomes. Ingredient disclosures have revealed that some of the patties used are heavily processed, often containing beef byproducts, fillers, and binders, meant to hold the shape, not deliver flavor. Former employees have said that patties arrive frozen and vacuum sealed, looking less like raw meat and more like pressed sheets of something you would not want to touch with your bare hands. Once cooked, the texture can feel off, spongy, too uniform, almost too perfect. And it is not just the meat. Reviewers have reported a strange aftertaste in some burgers, likely due to preservatives and sodium phosphate compounds used to prolong shelf life and help bind water to protein. That might not sound like a big deal, but for older adults watching their sodium, or with sensitive digestion, it can make all the difference. What makes it more unsettling is that Jack in the Box markets itself as edgy, as though breaking the rules somehow makes the food better. But that attitude can mask a deeper issue, a willingness to cut corners in the name of keeping things fun. One former manager shared that patties past their best date were sometimes used if they passed the sniff test, especially on overnight shifts when oversight was lower. The burger you ordered at midnight may not have been the freshest, or even safe by normal standards. Add to that the high fat and sodium content of their patties, and suddenly that late-night bite turns into something with lasting consequences. A single burger can contain more than half the recommended sodium intake for the entire day. For older customers on medication or with heart conditions, it is a gamble that often goes unnoticed until symptoms flare up. And through it all, the cheerful clown mascot keeps smiling. Jack in the Box may offer convenience, but the cost of that convenience often shows up in places no one talks about. Is a quirky logo worth the risk of putting something in your body that does not resemble what it promises to be? 5. Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Carl's Jr. and Hardee's might be two sides of the same coin, depending on which part of the country you are in. Their burgers look bold and heavy, drenched in cheese and sauce, with commercials that push indulgence as a lifestyle. But for seniors looking for a reliable beef burger, these chains come with more baggage than just melted cheddar. Many of their signature patties, especially the ones labeled thick burgers, aren't made from pure ground beef the way homemade patties are. They often contain textured vegetable protein, beef flavoring, and additives that boost volume while cutting meat costs. This may not be listed clearly on the menu, but dig into supplier disclosures or ingredient lists on the corporate site, and the additions become clearer. Binding agents, caramel coloring, sodium phosphates, all designed to maintain the illusion of richness while delivering something much more synthetic. Some older customers have reported feeling sluggish or bloated after eating, chalking it up to age. But when you combine high levels of processed ingredients with the digestive system of someone in their 60s or 70s, the discomfort is not a coincidence. It is a chemical equation. One former employee at a Hardee's location revealed that some patties are stored too long in warming trays, leading to a dried-out center wrapped in oily edges. Others admitted to recycling patties that had not sold during busy times into new orders to cut waste. While this might make sense from a cost-saving angle, it crosses a line when it comes to trust. For seniors on a budget, Carl's Jr. might seem like a solid choice. Big portions, flashy deals, 2-for-1 combos. But the value is often hiding something. A burger might weigh half a pound, but how much of that is actual beef and how much is filler and retained moisture? The difference is more than just texture, it is nutrition, and for some, long-term health. Especially when you factor in hidden trans fats, still present in some of their older oil blends and under-the-radar prep methods at franchised locations. The marketing promises something bold and satisfying. But if you peel back the layers, what you often get is a heavy dose of salt, chemical additives, and meat that only halfway lives up to the word. And by the time you feel the difference, it is already sitting in your stomach. 6. Sonic Drive-In. Sonic brings back memories for many. A tray clipped to the car window, a milkshake in hand, and the hum of the roller skates gliding by. It is a drive-in fantasy preserved in syrupy nostalgia. But for all the charm on the outside, their burgers tell a different story. Sonic's signature patties are often a mix of ground beef and industrial-grade fillers. The result is a burger that looks thick and juicy in the photos, but arrives flat, greasy, and oddly chewy in real life. Customers have long reported inconsistencies, from undercooked centers to overly dry patties reheated on the same griddle used for everything from chicken to hash browns. That cross-use of griddles has been a problem at some locations, especially in off hours where time-saving often overrides sanitation. Former staff have mentioned thawing patties in hot water to rush preparation, something that not only compromises texture but raises food safety concerns. And the issue goes deeper than kitchen shortcuts. Sonic's supply chain, like many fast food giants, prioritizes cost per unit over quality. That means the beef used is typically from the lower end of USDA grades, often enhanced with beef flavor and colorants to maintain appearance after freezing. When grilled, the result is a burger that gives off a rich scent, but delivers a thin, artificial taste, like a memory of beef rather than the real thing. Older customers may be drawn in by the nostalgia or the senior drink discounts, but the food itself does not reflect that warm feeling. One retired chef shared that after eating a burger at Sonic, he felt off for 2 days, bloated, dehydrated, and fatigued. He later realized the sodium levels were nearly double what he would normally eat in a meal. That kind of over-seasoning is not just about taste. It is about masking a lack of quality. It is the culinary equivalent of heavy perfume covering something gone stale. Sonic may look like a slice of Americana, but their burger patties show how quickly that slice can spoil. For older adults watching their diet, the food might feel familiar, but what is really inside those buns is something worth questioning. And at the end of the day, it is not the roller skates or cherry limeade that sticks with you. It is how that burger sits in your gut long after the car has pulled away. 7. Dairy Queen. For many of us, Dairy Queen brings back memories of hot summers, soft-serve cones, and those paper-thin napkins that never quite did the job. Their burgers, often paired with a blizzard, were always part of that fast food charm, simple, filling, and affordable. But if you have walked into a DQ grill and chill, lately expecting the same honest bite of beef you remember, the reality may leave a different taste. More and more customers are beginning to notice that what is inside the bun just does not feel or taste the same anymore. And they are not wrong. Over the years, Dairy Queen has expanded beyond treats into full grill menus, and with that shift came changes most folks never questioned. Some DQ burger patties have been quietly altered, made thinner, seasoned differently, and in some cases padded with fillers to stretch the beef further. One former employee at a Midwestern location described how frozen patties would arrive pre-seasoned and pre-formed, labeled as beef blend instead of pure ground beef. While technically still within labeling guidelines, blend is a word that opens the door to textured vegetable proteins, soy concentrates, and other FDA-approved bulking agents that dilute real meat content. Customers have noticed the texture: spongier, less flavorful, sometimes oddly uniform. It is the kind of difference you might miss on the first bite but can feel by the last. Online reviews reflect this too. Phrases like tastes off, strangely soft, or not the same as it used to be show up again and again. For seniors who remember when burgers were grilled fresh and beef meant beef, that quiet shift is not just disappointing, it is unsettling. The company keeps marketing nostalgia, but what lands on the tray is a modern cost-cutting version of the classic. And for older customers who may rely on trusted comfort foods, the impact of these changes goes beyond taste. Fillers can bring unexpected sodium, allergens, or digestive issues that are rarely listed clearly on menus. And because DQ locations are often independently franchised, quality and formulation can vary more than most people realize. So when you unwrap that next cheeseburger and wonder why it feels more like a processed patty than a backyard grill favorite, you are not imagining it. Something has changed, just quietly enough that most folks will not ask the question out loud. 8. Checkers and Rallies. There is something unmistakable about pulling up to a Checkers or Rallies drive-thru at night. The neon glow, the smell of sizzling burgers, and the promise of fast, bold flavor. Their burgers have long been marketed as big, juicy, and packed with attitude. But behind that heavy seasoning and flashy presentation lies a practice that more customers are beginning to question. What exactly is in that beef? Unlike other chains that lean into simplicity, Checkers and Rallies have doubled down on flavor engineering. Burgers here are often so heavily seasoned that the original meat character disappears. That is not by accident. Food scientists call it masking, the practice of using strong spices and marinades to hide the taste and texture of lower quality or highly processed meats. One former employee shared that patties arrived frozen, stacked in plastic trays, and were sometimes marked beef product, not ground beef. That difference in wording matters more than most customers realize. Beef product allows for extended ingredients, soy isolates, binders, and textured proteins that can stretch a patty beyond its natural limits. Some reports from supply chain workers suggest that these blends can contain as little as 70% beef by volume, depending on the region. But with all that seasoning, few customers stop to question the meat itself. It is not illegal and it is not unique to this chain, but Checkers and Rallies have leaned especially hard into this formula. Their signature bold flavors, crispy edges, and quick grill style are designed to distract, not to reveal. For seniors or anyone watching their sodium, this is where the real concern begins. One burger can carry well over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, not counting fries or a drink. And with added fillers, the nutritional content may shift far from what one expects from a beef burger. For those who grew up believing a burger was just beef, a bun, and maybe a slice of cheese, this is something else entirely. It is performance food, designed more to impress the senses than to nourish the body. And for older diners trying to eat more carefully, that makes these burgers more than just risky. They are quietly misleading. So if your next burger from Checkers or Rallies tastes louder than it feels real, there is a reason for that. What is being sold as flavor may be hiding something a lot less satisfying underneath. There was a time when ordering a burger meant you knew what you were getting. A warm bun, a beef patty, and maybe a few pickles tossed in for good measure. It was not complicated, and it was not supposed to be. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Quietly, almost invisibly. Recipes were reformulated, supply chains stretched, and corporate cost cutting became the secret ingredient in too many meals. For older generations especially, that shift is not just frustrating, it feels like a betrayal. Because burgers were never just about food. They were part of a memory. Something you ate after baseball practice, on road trips, or sitting in a booth with friends when a few dollars could still buy something real. When fast food was made fast but not fake. Today we are seeing more burgers that come pre-packaged, pre-seasoned, and pre-decided. Chains market them as convenient, value-packed, even nostalgic. But what they do not say is what got left out. The fillers, the sodium, the corners quietly cut in the name of efficiency. And the worst part? Many of these changes are hard to see unless you know where to look. It is not about stirring panic, it is about paying closer attention. Because for those trying to protect their health, especially in later years, these small hidden shifts can have real consequences. High sodium levels can quietly raise blood pressure. Added binders can trigger sensitivities, and what once gave comfort now comes with uncertainty. But there is power in knowing, in asking questions, in pausing before accepting the deal at face value. It does not mean you have to give up your favorite places. It just means not taking the marketing at face value anymore. Because sometimes the most important ingredient in your next meal is the one you thought was there all along. And if this felt familiar, or reminded you of something you have experienced, feel free to share your thoughts below. Sometimes a quiet story in the comments teaches us more than a billboard ever could. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to The Hidden Menu to never miss out on the worst secrets restaurants doesn't tell you. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.